hope is that we all get it. Don't give in to the pain, just keep living, cause
got dreams I'm striving for. So I'm gonna live higher. I'm gonna live higher. I got dreams I'm striving.
What's going on, guys? I'm super excited today. I have Gabriel Garcia from the South Florida, one of the toughest markets in the country, and I'm super excited to have him here. This guy's, I've never seen him post a check, to be honest, but this guy's runs a multiple seven-figure company out of South Florida. So I just want to thank Gabriel for taking the time out to be on this interview.
Hey, what's up, Toby?
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's rewind the clock for us. Take us back to what you were doing before real estate, how you got started in real estate. And let's just kind of start there.
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect.
Audio good? All right, cool. When I got started back in 2012 was the first time I ever learned about wholesaling at a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar back in Thanksgiving of 2012 was at a seminar. So I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book maybe like a few months before that, and that kind of like turned the light bulb on for me. I grew up in a very middle class family. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. So the thought that I could buy assets that provide me income every single month was pretty cool. I never thought about that before. Problem was I was making $30K a year at my job. So I'm like, man, in order to buy these assets at $30K, it's gonna take me forever. I need to find a way to like make this faster. So yeah, when I went to the seminar, that's how I learned about wholesaling. I'm like, great. I'm like, this is the perfect way to actually learn enough about real estate to know what a good deal is and to generate cash. Right. So that's how I got started. I kind of apply what I learned at the seminar. I think like 3 months later, I did like a JV deal with someone where I made like $1,000. I was still struggling, and then eventually I found the local mentor who kind of like showed me the ropes and partnered with me. And towards like the end of that year towards the end of like 2013 is when I really started cranking. Beginning of first quarter of 14, I quit my full-time job and went full-time into the business.
Awesome. So let's fast forward now. What does your business look like today? And if you don't mind sharing, what did your company gross in revenue in 2018?
So in 18, we grossed about 1.8 million. Business looks like today, it's basically me and a partner that oversee the business. And we got, I want to say, let me not count because I don't know the number, but basically I got right now, I have 4 inbound lead managers, right? 4? Four inbound lead managers. I got an acquisition rep, transaction coordinator, disposition person. That's pretty much the core team right there.
Okay. So from a marketing standpoint, I know most of the big guys, they do a lot of heavy direct mail. Is that, what's currently working for you from a marketing standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been heavy in direct mail. Just recently, this last quarter, we kind of slowed down direct mail because we found ourselves in some cash crunch issues. And we've looked at, the metrics from the last 6 months, and direct mail just hasn't been giving us the same return that it used to. So as of right now, we're not doing direct mail. I foresee us continuing to do direct mail as we get into quarter 3 and quarter 4 of this year, but just from a very strategic standpoint, and not from a very wide or shotgun type approach.
So you've completely shut down direct mail for the moment?
For right now, yeah, just temporarily though.
Okay. Now, knowing what you know now at this current time, is there anything you would have done differently when you first started in the business?
Yes, I would have never rehabbed. I would have reinvested my money into marketing a lot faster. and just kept on continuing to grow and build processes and systems behind the marketing.
Okay. And why did you say you would have never rehabbed? Is that something that kind of held you back? Can you explain why that kind of, why you came up with that answer?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it all the time. Every time I get younger wholesalers who like reach out to me for advice or want to hire me for consulting or whatever, I always try and discourage them from wholesaling. I mean, from rehabbing. I think rehabbing is a big distraction. It also depends the market that you're in. We're in a market in South Florida where we can make 20-25K on average wholesaling a deal. And the main issue with rehabbing is that it sucks cash. It sucks cash. It delays your sales cycle an extra 4 to 6 months. So when you're in this hyper growth phase where you constantly need cash to grow, rehab completely does the opposite effect and sucks cash out of your business, puts monthly debt service on your books. It's just a cash cow. And so, even if you can make double the amount of money rehabbing on a deal versus wholesaling, which for the most part doesn't seem to be the case for most people around the country that I talk to. Nowadays with the market being the way it is, you can make quite a lot. You can probably make anywhere from 60 to 70% of a rehab fee just on the wholesale side, sometimes even more. I mean, there's deals that we've rehabbed that we're like, man, we would have made more just wholesaling it when it's all said and done. There's things that you don't plan. There's unexpected problems that come up. A lot of issues that can happen. So, just the risk to reward just isn't there for the rehabbing in my perspective. If you're, and I say this specifically, like if you're a rehabber where you don't do marketing, all you do is just like buy from other wholesalers and you rehab, and that's your model, that's fine. But if you're a wholesaler whose business model is to market for motivated sellers and you have to put dollars out to get leads in, you need that cash back as fast as humanly possible, so you can keep growing your business and cranking the engine. So when you're doing rehab, you're going to delay that cash coming back an extra 4 to 6 months. You can't afford to do that. You're going to make way more money wholesaling. I wish I would have known that moving forward, but whatever, it is what it is.
That's definitely great advice. So here's what I want to talk about. I think something that doesn't get talked about as much from the podcast that I listen to is the power of a mastermind. I know you're part of a high-level mastermind, maybe some others. Can you talk about what a mastermind has done for you personally and also for your business?
Yeah. I joined the Collective Genius Mastermind back in I think it was like late 2015. That was the first mastermind we ever joined, and we did $1 million in revenue in 2015. Me and my partner were pretty much wearing almost all the hats in the business. We had like 1 or 2 key employees, but that's pretty much it. We were pretty much doing all the work for the most part. And in 16, we doubled our business. We hire like 5, 6, 7 key people and doubled our revenue. Now, one thing I will say this too, just because we doubled our revenue doesn't mean we made more money. We actually didn't make more money when we did that. And so there's a lot of business owners, especially in this wholesaling space, when they scale, they get very discouraged that, man, I grew my top line by 2-3x, but I was making more money before when I was small. That's going to happen as you scale. But as you continue to refine your processes and learn and get better, you'll eventually be able to get out of that, where you'll be making way more money in your business with the scaled model versus the solo model, and you'll have way more time on your hands, because you'll have people handling most of the day-to-day, and you can kind of free yourself up to do other bigger projects.
Can you walk me through like what your day looks like from when you wake up to if you have an office, like kind of walk me through your day-to-day operation?
So you're talking about like my routine, or specifically?
Like your routine for your company, like how many hours are you putting in actual work, for your company, for your business? Yeah,
right now, I mean, I typically work a normal day. I mean, I'm in the office anywhere from like 9 to 10 a.m., but I work from home. And then I'm typically out of the office anywhere from like 6 to 7, depending on what I got going on. And that's, I choose to do that, right? Like right now I like working in my business. I like working on my business, and I want to take this business to a $10 million company. So, in order for me to do that, I got to put the work in. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, when I first started, for those listening that are kind of, have a full-time job or a part-time job or whatever, when I started, I had a full-time job. So what I would do was I would wake up around 5 a.m. every morning, and I would basically use, I would meditate for like 15 minutes, just get some quick exercise in to get some energy, anywhere from like 10 to 15-minute exercise in my apartment. And then I would spend an hour and a half to 2 hours just making offers on properties on the MLS. That's all I did. Then luckily I had a job that wasn't very, it was easy, and it wasn't very like, it was just, it gave me a lot of free time, like I can get all my work done at that job, in 5-6 hours if I focused and didn't talk to people and didn't get distracted, and most employees, it's funny because, you look at most employees and that's what they do. Like, they don't use their time wisely, then that's why they're at where they're at. Like, when instead of using their free time to grow, they're using their free time to gossip or just, talk about the basketball game or the football game yesterday. But anyways, what I would do is during my lunchtime, I would have a list of all those offers that I made, and I would just follow up with people. So then I would just eat my lunch during my working hours on the desk, because I could do that and still get all my stuff done. And then, when I got home at night, I typically spend another hour just following up. And I kind of did that for, I think it probably took me about 6 months plus or minus of doing that for me to be able to just generate enough revenue to quit my day job, and then, I mean, I've kind of, I've always been a late starter. I don't hop in the office early. I've always gotten the office anywhere from like 10 o'clock in the morning or so. And then, I'm in the office till about 5, 6. But the cool part is, if I want to, with the business that I have today, if I want to leave for a month, I could take off for a month, I've done that twice already. When both of my kids were born, I took off for a whole entire month to just, enjoy that moment and that experience. And, I just got back from Italy, a couple of weeks ago. And while in Italy, like, I left my phone on airplane mode the entire time. I didn't want anyone calling me. I didn't want any texts coming in. There's definitely a level of freedom that comes with setting up your business right. But, that's kind of how my day-to-day looks like, and, I typically, I don't know, are you familiar with the Miracle Morning book?
I actually read that book. That book is amazing.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree. So, I mean, I don't do the whole entire Savers program, but I've always done that. Like I learned about, spirituality and meditation at a really young age. So I always meditate in the morning. Like today, I was at a yoga class at 5:45. I just, I got back, made some breakfast, spend time with the kids a little bit before I get to the office. And, I typically, my morning typically consists of, movement, some type of movement, some type of meditation, and I'll try and get some type of learning in, whether it's an audio book or reading, and things like that. So if I hit those 3 in a day, I'm typically on fire,
Okay. And you posted something on Facebook which was very, very interesting, and I want you to kind of share it. It was that post about when you said that, essentially, in a nutshell, wholesaling is not a legacy business. And I think the way you worded it was spot on. Can you talk about what you meant by that? So for the people who haven't seen your post, can you talk about what you meant by you posting that post?
Sure. Yeah, it seemed like a lot of people agreed with it, and there was a couple of people that didn't agree with it. But what I meant by that is that like, there are businesses that you can set up to really like impact the world, and and help like thousands or millions of people, which is great, and I eventually would like to be in some type of business in that capacity one day in the future. But the reality is, with wholesale, you're not going to really, you're not going to have a direct effect on that many people. Like, I can probably impact more people, or at least I feel that I can impact more people through doing like podcasts like this with you, because I can get thousands of listeners, versus in my wholesaling business. I mean, we'll flip 100 and some houses a year. So I mean, I'm really technically I'm only affecting that, that many people in an impactful way. And even most of it, I don't truly believe that it's kind of like a necessary type evil in a way, right? I'm not saying that what we do is evil. It's not what I mean at all. But the reality is we're buying houses at a discount. We're not, if you really want it to be like what's the word? I don't know. I can't think of the word right now, but like, if you really wanted to like truly, truly, truly help people, the reality is most of the people that call you, you can convince them to list their house or whatever and get them way more money than they would coming to you, but that's not what we do. We don't want to do that. We're not in the business of doing that. We want to buy their house, and we're not trying to deceive these people or anything like that, but that's just the reality.
Right.
And the reality is, I mean, I haven't seen anyone scale this business to where they're buying 1 million houses a year. I don't even know anyone that's doing 10 million a year. In wholesaling, I think the biggest company I've seen was doing about 8, and they just recently fell off. They got a bunch of issues that happened as they were trying to scale. So, I don't think it's a business that you can have a massive impact in. It's not a business that you're going to take to 100 million in revenue or 500 million in revenue and have a million people in a client base, or hundreds of thousands in a client base. That's just not the business that we're in. It's just it's a cash business.
Right.
You generate cash. There's very little barriers to entry. Anyone can learn about wholesaling and get started. There's no, all it is just a learning curve. It's like if you wanted to start some, I don't know, some insurance company or something, like, there's all these things that you have to go through in order to start that, or, there's different businesses. So wholesaling it's a unique business, and I love it, but it is what it is. It's got its pros and it's got its cons,
Yeah. Just to kind of add, it's not a business where you're like impacting lives. You're not changing lives. You're helping people in a situation, but it's not like, I don't know what the word is. It's just not like you're leaving impact on their lives. You know what I mean? Kind of what.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the people we impact more are kind of our buyers more than the sellers, because it's like, these sellers come to us, they sell us their house, they have all these financial problems or emotional problems. The reality is when they're done, they're still going to have those same problems.
Right.
And they're going to manifest in another way, so, I wish we can help solve those problems as well, but I haven't figured that out yet. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I saw you speaking at Joe Dillon's event. Do you get fulfillment when you're up on stage and you're helping these entrepreneurs scale their business? Is that something that you get fulfillment from?
I do, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it looks like it, because that's why I think that's one of the reasons you posted that post there. If you don't mind sharing, what's your company goals for 2019?
Well, I'm trying to take the company to 2.5 million this year. And more importantly, we want to net 25% of that after our salaries and everything is said and done. So the main thing is that, and we're gonna strategically enter at least 2 markets this year. So hopefully we're in 19 now. So hopefully by 20, we should. I would like to really be at a $5 million company, given the markets that we're in. I really want to pull $1 million out of every market that we're in. And so that's kind of the game plan for right now.
Gotcha. If you could rewind the clock and go back to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself? This could be life, business, anything in general, and any piece of advice you would have given your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self, I would have told myself, I got a couple of things. One, I would have told myself to chill, that everything was going to find its way and kind of work its way out. If I just kind of let the process unfold. I would probably highly discourage myself from getting into massive debt to go into college. I would tell myself not to do that. I would tell myself to start reading books about finance and money way earlier than what I did. I think the first book I ever read about money, I was was the Cash Flow Quadrant from Kiyosaki, and I was probably like 24, 23. I wish I would have read those books when I was 18. I'd be in a different league, right now, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I can think of right now,
Well, now that you mentioned books, give me your top 5 books in no particular order. Doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be strictly business. Anything in general, your top 5 books in no particular order.
Man, there's a lot. I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad would definitely be there. Another book that came to mind is called Stranger by the River. It's a spiritual book. It's kind of like a passage between a guy named Paul Twitchell, who is a spiritual mentor of mine, and a spiritual master that kind of like, they just kind of like talk one-on-one, and he shares a lot of like wisdom and spiritual insight with him. I've probably read that book, countless number of times. It's another great book. I don't know, man. That's really tough to say. There's so many books. I could tell you some of the top books I've read this year. One of the books, Great Game of Business, by I think it's Jack Stan or Jack Black or something. I forgot the name of the author, but Great Game of Business is a really great book. Not Scaling Up. Scaling Up is great too, but EOS, is it called EOS? Traction, I'm sorry. Traction is a great book. It's another really, really important book for me that I read this year. Jim Collins, I love all of Jim Collins' work. I think it's phenomenal. He's got like The Good to Great. He's got the Great by Choice, and Built to Last. They're all great reads that are worth the time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I read a lot, dude. I'm always reading. I got a lot of books. Another book that really impacted my life is called The Paleo Cure. It's a health book, but yeah, I mean, I suffered from a lot of like health issues for the last few years, gastric type stuff. And, I saw a functional medicine doctor, and he referred me to this book and put me on a whole type of protocol and special diet. And man, just, it was complete opposite of everything I've learned about health and nutrition. And it worked. Like, I've cured myself, and I've seen all types of holistic and Eastern and Western doctors. And man, for the last 5 years, no one had been able to do anything to it. And with what I learned from this book and some of the other concepts from my doctor, really worked and made an impact,
That's awesome. Last question. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you can't come up with it, that's fine. But what's a question you've always wanted to answer, yet have never been asked?
What is a question that I've always wanted to answer, but I've never been asked?
Yeah. It's tough to. If you can't come up with one, I know it's tough to kind of do it off the cuff.
Yeah, I would have to spend some time thinking about that.
It's a question you have to really take your time. I heard that question before, and I was like, wow, that's a really good question. So it's tough to come up with it, on the spot. So
I would say, I wish more people would ask me about, I guess like my relationship with God, or how, how I went about finding my own happiness and peace in life. That's something that like fuels me up and stuff. And I don't, not a lot of people ask those types of questions. More people are more interested in the business and financial stuff.
Yeah, I do see that you've been a lot more active on social media, and some of those posts involve like your spirituality. So I did notice that you're a little bit, you're more active on social media, and also being more proactive, posting about your spirituality and stuff like that. So I do enjoy that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So any last piece of advice for anybody who, whether they're looking to scale or they're trying to close their first deal, any piece of advice you would give that person?
Well, step one is find someone that's already built what you're trying to build and learn from them. You know, pay them for advice, um, or figure out a way to just somehow get the information from them, whether it's working for free in exchange for the information or whatever. I've always paid for advice. It's it's easy. I like just stroking a check to someone and getting their other mentorship and focus and attention on me and what I want to do. Yeah, I mean that would be number one. Number two would be focus. I mean, like relentless focus. If you're trying to scale something and you get distracted with doing other things at the same time. I've tried to build, I launched a software company last year, and I resigned from that company. I'm no longer in that company anymore. But every time I've tried to launch something else while I'm currently trying to grow and build my business, it's always been a mistake for the most part. It's such a distraction. And as entrepreneurs, focusing is very difficult to do. In the beginning, it's not so much because you have no choice but to focus to grow your revenue. But then as you start becoming successful and you start getting some free time on your hands, it becomes much more difficult to focus because you want to do new things. We're we have like you said, the shiny object syndrome. So yeah, I would say that,
Okay.
focus, just be all in. I mean, get a mentor and be all in.
I think that book, The One Thing by Gary Keller is a perfect example of what you should be doing. Just focus on that one thing and dive deep into that. Try not to get distracted. I mean, it is really hard, as you said, as entrepreneurs, that you see, oh, this opportunity here, it looks like I can do it, but then it turns out to be, it was a waste of time because it took you away from what was really moving.
Working.
Yeah. Exactly.
The grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, and there is a time and place for, I think, launching new ventures. But until you've got what it is that you want, like 100% dialed in, you have no business doing it,
So where can people connect with you? What social media platforms they can connect with you?
I typically post on Instagram and Facebook. I just started on Instagram, to be quite honest. I had a couple people that were just like, you gotta be on Instagram. I'm like, all right, I'll go on Instagram. So, but I'm pretty active on Facebook. I mean, I post on Instagram, but to be honest, I barely check like the comments or that stuff. But I do check them on Facebook quite often.
Okay. I'll have the links below. Thank you so much again, Gabriel, for taking the time out. It was a pleasure speaking with you, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Let me hit the stop record.